I would sooner drink poison than kiss that pig again. That is exactly what I heard my future son-in-law, Watson, say to his best man just 3 hours before the rehearsal dinner was set to begin. They laughed, a crude rattling sound that echoed off the bathroom tiles, treating his revulsion for my daughter like the punchline of a cheap joke. My daughter, Maureen, had no idea she was about to pledge her life to a monster. I stood frozen in the stall, my hand hovering over the latch, listening as my entire world began to tilt on its axis. If you are listening to this, I need you to take a moment. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments right now, what city or country are you watching from? I want to know who is standing with me today. This is my story of absolute dismantling. It was a humid Friday in mid-August, and the Spanish moss hung heavy from the oaks surrounding the colonial estate in Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, Georgia. I was fixing my collar in the restroom mirror, preparing to host the biggest night of Maureen's life. Everything looked pristine on the outside, but behind a bathroom stall door, I was about to learn that we were standing on a trap door. I adjusted my cufflinks, trying to regulate my breathing. The venue was spectacular. Mahogany tables, imported orchids, and a view of the marsh that cost a fortune. It was exactly what Maureen had dreamed of since she was a little girl playing pretend weddings in our backyard. I had raised her on my own after my wife, Eleanor, passed away from a sudden aneurysm 17 years ago. It had just been the two of us against the world. I built Smith & Co. Logistics from a single van into a regional shipping empire for her. Every truck on the road, every warehouse on the dock was secured for her future. Watson knew that. He had spent the last 18 months playing the role of the humble, aspiring entrepreneur. He was charming, deferential, and always eager to listen to my war stories about the industry. He made Maureen feel seen. She was 31, brilliant with numbers but shy with people, and she bloomed under his attention. I thought I had finally found someone worthy of protecting her when I was gone. I was a fool. I had stepped away from the appetizers to wash my hands when the voices drifted in. The restroom was empty, or so they thought. I recognized Watson's baritone immediately. It was the same voice that had toasted me at Thanksgiving, now dripping with venom. "Once the ink is dry on the marriage license, I'm in," Watson said. "The old man's trust fund unlocks at marriage. We are talking access to the liquid capital and a seat on the board." His friend snickered. "And Maureen? She doesn't have a clue?" Watson sighed, the sound of a man bored with his chore. "She eats up anything I feed her. She is so starved for a compliment, she doesn't even question it. But God, the act is exhausting. I'd sooner drink poison than kiss that pig again. But I just have to hold my breath for 6 more months. Then we liquidate the assets, I file for divorce, and I walk away with half the shipping empire." My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. The room spun. He called my daughter a pig, my beautiful, kind, brilliant Maureen, who had spent the last week fretting over whether Watson would like his groom's cake. He was not just marrying her, he was hunting her. He was planning to strip mine my life's work and leave my daughter emotionally bankrupt. I wanted to kick open the stall door and smash his face into the porcelain sink. I wanted to drag him out by his expensive hair and throw him into the marsh. But I was 58 years old with a bad hip, and he was 32 and fit, more importantly. Violence would only make me look like the unstable villain. Violence would not save Maureen's inheritance or her heart. I needed something stronger than fists. I needed total annihilation. I waited until they left, washed my face with cold water, and walked back out to the party with a smile that felt like it was carved out of granite. That night, after the guests had left and Maureen had driven home with Watson, I sat in my dark study with a tumbler of scotch I didn't drink. I stared at a framed photo of Maureen from her college graduation. She looked so proud, so innocent. How do you tell your child that the person they love is a parasite? It is the hardest thing a parent can face. If you have ever had to watch someone you love walk blindly into a fire, you know the helplessness I felt. It costs you nothing to subscribe to this channel, but it cost me everything to keep this secret long enough to save her. If you believe that family is worth fighting for, even when the odds are stacked against you, please subscribe. It tells me I am not alone in this fight. I put down the glass and picked up the phone. It was 2:00 a.m., but I knew Bernie would be awake. Bernie was a former narcotics detective turned private investigator. We went back 20 years. "Bernie," I said, my voice raspy. "I have a job. It involves Watson. I need you to dig until you hit the bottom of hell." The next morning, I drove to Maureen's townhouse. It was a Saturday, and the humidity was already rising off the pavement. Watson's car was gone, supposedly at a golf scramble with clients. Maureen answered the door in her robe, looking tired but happy. "Dad, is everything okay? You left the party early last night." I sat at her kitchen island, trying to choose my words with surgical precision. "Maureen, honey, we need to talk about the wedding, about the legal side of things." Her face fell immediately. "Dad, not the prenup again. Watson already signed the one you drafted. He didn't even read it. He said he doesn't care about the money." I leaned forward. "It's not just that. Last night, I heard something. I heard Watson talking." I told her a sanitized version, leaving out the specific insult, but mentioning the discussion about liquidating the company. I watched her face, praying for a spark of doubt. Instead of doubt, I saw a wall of ice form behind her eyes. She stood up, her hands trembling. "You never gave him a chance," she snapped. "From day one, you've looked down on him because he didn't come from money. Now you're inventing conversations?" "I am not inventing anything, Maureen. The man is a fraud." "He loves me," she shouted, a desperate edge to her voice. "He is the first man who has ever loved me for me, not for Smith Logistics. You're just terrified of losing control, Dad. You are lonely and you are jealous." She pointed to the door. "If you can't be happy for me, then don't come to the wedding. Just leave." I stood there, gutted. My own daughter turning me away for the wolf in sheep's clothing. I walked out to my truck, feeling every year of my age, knowing that if I pushed harder, I would lose her forever. I had to work in the shadows now. For the next 10 days, I played the role of the repentant father. I sent flowers. I apologized for my nerves. Meanwhile, Bernie was dissecting Watson's life. I met Bernie at a dive bar near the docks on a Tuesday night. He slid a manila envelope across the sticky table. "Your boy isn't who he says he is," Bernie said, lighting a cigarette. "He claims to be a freelance consultant for tech startups, right? There is no record of him consulting for anyone in the last 4 years. The office he goes to downtown? It's a co-working space. He rents a desk for $50 a month just to have a place to sit and play on his phone." My jaw tightened. "So where's the money coming from?" Bernie tapped the folder. "Credit cards in 3 different names and loans from women." The second bomb dropped 3 days later. Bernie called me while I was inspecting a shipment at the port. "I found out where he goes when he's not at the co-working space," Bernie said. "He's got a friend, a lady friend." Her name was Dominique. She was a cocktail waitress at a casino across the state line. Bernie sent the photos to my encrypted email. There was Watson, my daughter's fiancé, sitting in a booth with a woman who looked nothing like Maureen. He was holding her hand, laughing, that same easy laugh he used to charm my investors. They had been checking into a budget motel off the interstate every Wednesday afternoon for 6 months. The timestamps on the photos corresponded perfectly with his client strategy sessions. He wasn't just stealing my money. He was mocking my daughter's devotion with every breath he took. Bernie wasn't done. He dug past the alias. Watson was actually born under the name William. He had a trail of scorched earth stretching back to Oregon. I sat in my office reading the report Bernie had compiled. 5 years ago, there was a woman named Mrs. Higgins in Portland. She was a widow with a substantial pension and a paid-off house. William had wooed her, convinced her to invest in a non-existent vineyard, and then vanished when the accounts were drained. Mrs. Higgins lost her home. She was currently living in a state-subsidized assisted living facility. There was another victim in Denver, a young heiress to a bakery chain. He had left her at the altar after securing a $50,000 loan for the honeymoon. This man was a career predator. He fed on trust. The final nail in the coffin was an audio recording Bernie managed to get. He had planted a listening device under the table at the booth where Watson met Dominique. I sat in my car, listening to the file, nausea rolling in my stomach. "She's pushing for a honeymoon in Italy?" Watson's voice sneered through the static. I told her we need to save money for our future house. God, she's pathetic. She looks at me with those big wet eyes. Dominique giggled. "How much longer, baby?" Watson laughed. "The wedding is in 3 weeks. Once I have the marriage certificate, I have legal standing. Give me 6 months to trigger the sale of the fleet. Then I dump the pig and we move to Cabo. I'll leave her with nothing but the cat." Hearing him use that word again, pig, solidified my resolve. There was no mercy left in me. I couldn't just show Maureen the folder. She was too deep in denial. She might claim the photos were doctored or the audio was taken out of context. I needed Watson to hang himself. I needed him to commit a felony in broad daylight. I called Leonard, my corporate attorney. Leonard was a shark in a 3-piece suit who had kept my company safe from unions and lawsuits for decades. I went to his office and laid everything out. I want to destroy him, Leonard. Not just break them up. I want him behind bars. Leonard reviewed the file, his face grim. If we entrap him, it's inadmissible. But if we offer him an opportunity to steal, and he takes it of his own free will, that is fraud. We need a lure, something too shiny to resist. We crafted the trap. We created a fictitious port expansion project. It was a confidential deal involving the purchase of new waterfront warehousing. A deal worth $12 million, with a projected kickback for the partners. I invited Watson to lunch. I played the tired, aging patriarch perfectly. "Watson," I said, stirring my iced tea, "I've been thinking. You're going to be family. It's time I stopped shutting you out. I have a deal moving fast, and I'm too old to handle the legwork alone. I need a partner I can trust." I saw the greed flare in his eyes, like a match strike. He sat up straighter. "Of course, Smith. Anything for the family. What's the play?" "I'm buying out a competitor's storage facility," I lied smoothly. "But I need to move the funds quietly so the union doesn't get wind of it until it's done. I need someone to act as the signatory for the holding company. You'd effectively control the asset for 48 hours. I watched him do the math. Controlling the asset meant he could leverage it, borrow against it, or try to reroute the title. It was the keys to the kingdom. "I can do that," Watson said, his voice trembling with excitement. "I can handle the paperwork." "Good," I said. "Meet me and Leonard at the warehouse on Thursday. Bring your ID. We sign everything then." He practically floated out of the restaurant. He thought he had won the lottery. Thursday came. The warehouse was cavernous and echoed with the sounds of forklifts in the distance. Leonard had set up a table with a mountain of documents. These were real legal documents, but the deal was a fabrication designed to transfer liability to Watson if he attempted to divert funds. "Here's the situation," Leonard explained. "To secure the purchase, we need a good faith deposit in the escrow account. But since the account is in your name, Watson, the law requires you to put up collateral." Watson hesitated. "Collateral? Just a formality," I interjected. "I'm putting up the company's ships. You just need to sign that you assume personal liability for the deposit. It's risk-free." It wasn't risk-free. It was a confession of intent to defraud if he moved a single penny. Watson didn't read the fine print. He just saw the numbers. Value, 12,000. He signed his name with a flourish. While the legal trap was snapping shut, I needed the emotional hammer. I had flown in Paul, the nephew of Mrs. Higgins from Oregon. He was a mechanic, a man with rough hands and tired eyes. We met at a diner near the airport. "He killed her, you know," Paul said quietly, staring at his coffee. "Not with a gun, but the stress, the shame. She died 6 months after he left. Heart failure. She felt so stupid for believing him." I reached across the table and shook his hand. "He won't do it to anyone else, Paul. I promise you that." Paul agreed to be present when the hammer dropped. I needed Maureen to see the human wreckage Watson left behind. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice for Mrs. Higgins and every other woman he had called a pig. The universe has a way of accelerating things. 2 days before the closing of the deal, Maureen showed up at my house. She looked pale. She was holding a briefcase, Watson's briefcase. "He left it at the apartment," she whispered, her voice shaking. "He took the wrong bag to the gym. Dad." I opened it. She walked into the living room and dumped the contents on the coffee table. There were passports with different names. There was a burner phone, and there was a printed itinerary for a flight to Cabo for 2, Watson and Dominique, dated for 3 weeks after the wedding. She had unlocked the phone. She had read the texts. She saw the messages calling her a cash cow and a stupid pig. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. "I didn't want to believe you," she cried. "I thought you were the villain. I defended him." I held her tight, just like I did when she scraped her knees as a kid. "It's not your fault, Maureen. He is a professional liar. He fooled everyone." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. The sadness was being replaced by a cold, hard rage. The same rage I had felt in the bathroom stall. "He thinks he's getting $12 million tomorrow," she said. "He thinks he's won." "He's getting nothing but a prison cell," I said. "Are you ready to finish this?" She nodded. "I want to be there. I want to see his face when the world falls apart." The closing was set for a private room at an upscale bistro downtown. Watson arrived wearing a new suit, looking like he owned the city. He saw me, Leonard, and surprisingly, Maureen sitting at the table. He faltered for a second, then put on his mask. "Maureen!" Daring, what a surprise. Here to celebrate the big deal? He went to kiss her cheek. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She just stared at him with dead eyes. "Sit down, Watson," I said. Or should I say, William. The color drained from his face instantly. Leonard placed a folder on the table. We know about Mrs. Higgins, we know about the bakery in Denver, and we know about Dominique. Watson stood up to run, but the door opened. Two plainclothes detectives stepped in, followed by Paul. William Snyder, the detective said. You are under arrest for grand larceny, wire fraud, and identity theft. As they cuffed him, Watson looked at Maureen. Baby, please, they're lying. You know me. Maureen stood up, picked up his glass of water, and calmly poured it onto his lap. I know you, she said, her voice steady. I know you're a pig. They dragged him out, screaming. The trial was swift. With the mountain of evidence, the testimony from Paul, and the paper trail Leonard created, he pled out to 15 years. Maureen didn't crumble. She took over the logistics operations with a ferocity I had never seen before. We sat on the dock one evening, months later, watching the ships come in. She was healing. We were safe. This brings us to the end. It is easy to turn a blind eye when the truth is painful. It is easy to let a predator win because fighting back is too hard. But if you walk away from this story with one thing, let it be this. Protect your people, even when they hate you for it, even when it breaks your heart. If this story moved you, if you believe in justice, please subscribe. It is a small gesture, but it means the world to us. Stay safe and watch your back.